Hopefully, if you look at my channel, you'll see that I have, I have like what? It's because my mic wasn't on. I have a Turtle Beach, so like, there's like this little plug-in it off, which I have no clue on how I did not see that on the left of my face. Okay, I don't know, but over some of the things I wanted to say. Um, it just made me want to like kind of solidify what I was saying to make it better. And so the things I'll be saying are things that I said in the live stream, and hopefully I'll get everything that I said, because I made some very good points, and that's just not me tooting my horn from just from just listening as a spectator perspective. Me listening to it, or not listening to it, excuse me, but me just remembering the things that I said. I was like, man, that's really good, And so hopefully I can remember these things. And if you guys don't know what the last episode was about, it was based on an article that I read a couple of days ago, comparing The Last of Us Part 2 and the possible future God of War 5. And I went into kind of detail a little bit and talked about it, about why they were comparing this game and why they said that the God of War 5 could actually do better than The Last of Us Part 2 in the sense of the twist that we all know about in the beginning of Last of Us Part 2 that really pushes Ellie over the edge into this revenge mission. And how they're saying, well, the God of War 5 can do better, and how it could put like Last of Us Part 2's path, or not path necessarily, but that death that all just triggered just all of us and got so much hate and and so much controversy spun around. And they're saying that a God of War can do better than this, and I went over it. I love both of these games. I love God of War and I love The Last of Us Part 2. But I made I pointed out very fast that the two games have two different paths and two different thematic atmospheres. Alright? And the first thing that I want to talk about right now is just the theme of both of the games. God of War was very different. When I'm by different, I mean it was way different than its predecessor, than the classic God of War games. It was so different. And ironically, the original franchise of God of War, it was about revenge. It was about revenge. It was about a guy who gave his soul to a god, and then that god betrayed him, and then for like games, you literally go out and you hunt them down and you kill them. And just to give you a little bit of a backstory here, because I said this in the video too, I brought up the story of Kratos. The story of Kratos is a very dark story, sad story. Well, in the first game, you get this cutscene where Kratos was part of the Spartan army, and they were going up against the barbarians. And this guy, and they were destroying the Spartan. They were destroying Spartans and Kratos' army. Okay, they were just completely annihilating everyone. And out of a desperate call or plea for the destruction of the barbarians, Kratos calls in the name of God of War, Ares, and he says, "I'll give you my soul if you kill you kill the barbarians." And Ares did. Now, once again, Ares is the gods of Norse mythology and Greek mythology. They're nothing really much like the biblical God. It's very different. Okay, these guys are just as sinful and evil as the people that are worshiping them. They're just like them. Well, at least with the game, at least. And Ares, in his nature, he literally betrayed. He manipulated and tricked Kratos into killing his own wife and daughter, and in the ashes of his wife and daughter is forever on his skin. That's why he's pale. It's the ashes of his wife and daughter that he killed. You know, once again, it's a very dark story, very tragic story, and so that's kind of how you spend the rest of the games. It's a complete Greek tale of revenge, and it's like I said, it's very interesting how God of War and The Last of Us Part 2 have kind of that similar. It was so different. I mean, my stepdad, he played God of War 1 in 2018, and when he played it, he told me, man, that he didn't really like the game because it deviated from its original gameplay style. You know, when you play the original God of War games, it's chaotic. There's rarely any cutscenes, and it's just chaotic. It's like an arcade game. You know, it's just a bunch of murder and mayhem, and he said he couldn't really like this because it was a different taste of tea for him, and for him it didn't really taste like sweet tea. It tasted like unsweet tea. He didn't like it. You know, you're doing all these missions. It's a lot of narrative, linear story. It's a completely different path than the predecessor to God of War 2018. It's completely different, and that's why when I hear people compare this game to The Last of Us Part 2, I'm like, I can see you compare the God of War series to The Last of Us Part 2, but I can't really see why. I only see one reason why you would relate the two, and that is just the story, the way that how the story is pushed. They do have that type of great similarity between a old man and someone younger, and this journey to get somewhere. It's like, but The Last of Us came out like way before it, for God of War did. Like, what was it, like 5 years? I think about 5 years before God of War was released, The Last of Us was released, and after The Last of Us was released, it was just like, this is a new type of game style. It's a completely new, and so, I could see them doing that. And like, once again, I love God of War, that one in 2018. I loved it. It was great. I played it like 3 times, the story over and over again. It was great, and I do see The Last of Us kind of in it though, and that's great. And I enjoyed it. They made it their own, and I enjoyed the story very much. But the way that they're comparing these two games in the article is not based on story narrative. It isn't about. It's not about how the story was, driven. It wasn't about how it had this theme of an older man, but with a younger person, and how that relationship grows as the story unfolds. They don't talk. That's not what they talk about. They're talking about a specific event that happened in The Last of Us Part 2 that they think that the God of War 5, the possible God of War 5, is going to literally put to shame. And we all know what this is. I already said it already. It's literally that one scene in The Last of Us Part 2 that triggers like everyone. Not everyone. I've never really met one person who loves The Last of Us Part 2 that could say that I enjoyed what happened in that game, the beginning of it. It's really hard for anyone who loves this game to watch it. And sorry right now, I'm just checking something. Anyways, this thing's taking too long. But yeah, they are grabbing yeah, hopefully you guys can hear me. Yeah, you can hear me. Yeah, just make sure. But there is something that Last of Us Part 2 sucks. That is an opinion. And I can tell you why it's an opinion. Because The Last of Us Part 2, Naughty Dog had a vision for the game. They had a vision for the game. And the way that it turned out to be is exactly how they envisioned it. They didn't have one vision and then it ended up being something else. No, that's not Naughty Dog's style. So the game that came out is exactly the game they wanted to come out. It was that's what their vision was, and it came to pass. In my view of something that sucks is even the directors themselves and the directors and creators and even the actors of it don't like it. They're not content with how it came out. They don't. And that to me is like a failure on behalf of, the person who made it. You know? That's just how I see it, man. It's just how I see it. I don't really see The Last of Us Part 2 being a bad story because even the creators, the directors, or the director, excuse me, the actors, the people who work on the game, they're content with the game. And if you look at my Twitter, you'll see that they actually said somehow a leak came out for The Last of Us Part 2 multiplayer. I saw like a little bit of it, but it's not really that good. But it's pretty crazy. If you were on my Twitter, you would have known that. But but back to the point of where I'm getting to here, is that it's that this game is a completely different. It is a better. Naughty Dog has a vision for The Last of Us Part 2 that came to pass. That's why it doesn't suck. So when people say, "Oh, it sucks," or someone says, "Oh, stop defending The Last of Us Part 2," it's an opinion. Because yes, I sometimes wish that they didn't take the route they went to. I'm every time I even look at The Last of Us, I sometimes can't even look at it in the same way I did before. But that does not say to me like, oh, it sucks. That's not what I believe in. I believe it's an amazing game. It's a great game that had provoked a lot of emotions in me that I haven't had in a video game before. And so I don't believe this game is... I think it's one of the greatest games because, one, it's not going to be remembered for its controversy. Let's get that straight. A game that's remembered of anything except the story and the characters, that's not good. Because that seems to me that people were more attached and brought in by the controversy, but not actually the story. And to me, it wasn't about the controversy that drew me in. It was the story. I'm going to remember this. I'm going to remember The Last of Us Part 2 in like a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or even 8 years from now. And I'm going to remember how the story was. I'm going to remember what drew me and what do I remember of the game. What do I remember of the game? It was the most emotional, provoking game I've ever played. I'm going to think, about the revenge, the unsatisfactory of revenge, the letting go, the cycle of it all, but also just the healing that Ellie had, the trauma that Ellie had. I'm going to remember all these things in like years to come. I'm not going to remember the controversy. And this isn't just some mass group thing. It's an individual. Not everyone is going to remember this game for its controversy. It's all in your own view and how you think of this game, and you have a right to believe and to think of whatever you want. And I would encourage you to have your own opinion about this game. I just, when you come down to this, do not go around here telling people that the game sucks, your opinion doesn't matter, because it's not true. It's a game. It's not some mass divine truth, It's a game. It's a piece of work. It's art. And so, just to say like, oh wow, it sucks, No, I think this game is one of the greatest of all time because of how provoking it is. How provoking it is in emotion. And when Joel died, I was angry, but I was more just shocked. And I was like, whoa, what did I just watch? This doesn't even feel like The Last of Us anymore. And it wasn't anger, it was just like I was shocked. When something happens to you, you don't get shocked, you don't get angry immediately. Well, for me, I didn't get angry immediately. I just got shocked. Especially how he died. I was like, whoa, what the heck's going on? And then it happened. I was like, holy crap! Especially when she shot him, I was like, holy crap! And then when they brought him to this wall, man, dude, his knee was gone. I was like, holy crap! I was shocked, man, and I didn't have any really rage. It was the only thing. I was just shocked, and then I was like traumatized through the entire game. But But back to the point. The reason that they are comparing these two games in the article is to say it's God of War 5 is going to do better with that twist in the beginning of the game than Last of Us Part 2. Now here's the thing that has always interested me is that Naughty Dog did not envision twists and turns. They didn't. They were trying to build this tension up. And they did. They built up this tension. And they did it. Now, could they have made a game of The Last of Us Part 2 with twists and turns? Of course they could. They've made some of the greatest story linear games ever. The Uncharted series are legendary. Okay, The Last of Us Part 1 is envisioned. What they wanted the game to be is what they wanted it to be, and that's how it is. And so you really can't say it sucked, and you really can't really say, like, you can say it sucked, obviously. But you cannot say that it's the truth. Fact is, and everyone else who supports it are blind, So, I just think that we have, I think many people have missed the idea here. And I think that it's just because the two games have different paths. They have different atmospheres, they have different themes, and they have different visions. So of course they're going to be different. Now, I myself am more of like how they might, like, for instance, Red Dead Redemption 2, the ending of that game was like the best ending I've ever seen in anything. Book, movie, TV show, video game, it was like the greatest of storytelling I've ever seen. That's what I love. That's what I love. When you kill a main character, it should go off in that retro. In that way. It was amazing, it was beautiful, and you were happy but you were sad, and you were just good, man. That was one of the greatest cinematic games I've ever even played. It was just amazing, and it's still one of my favorite games, and it's so good, and they could do that, and I love that type of game. I wish that was the same thing for The Last of Us Part 2, but just because it is not the case for The Last of Us Part 2, that automatically means that I'm going to hate it? No. Because I think that if they went a different route, I don't think The Last of Us Part 2 would be The Last of Us Part 2. So, I don't know. It's just one of those things that I have to say, and I really, it just matters on which path and atmosphere the God of War creators are going to go towards. If they're going to have a death like Joel, then shoot, man, this can hurt, bro, for a lot of people. Or if it's going to go out like Arthur Morgan, which is like phenomenal, greatest thing ever. And once again, the reason Joel died so brutally that way was because of the path and atmosphere of the game. So, that's just this. Remember, guys, this is just my thoughts. What I think, it's not like completely true. It's just giving my thoughts on some things that I think that are kind of crazy to assume, And so yeah, I don't really have there's one, like I said, that it all depends on the path that the creators go down to, and I really enjoyed The Last of Us Part 2. I did. For some reason, when I played as Abby, it's like I wasn't really angry, But I'm sitting here, I'm like, whoa, what's happening, So yeah, I don't agree with everything that they did with the game, but I'd be lying to you guys if I said the game wasn't good. I'd be lying to you. If I did not think the game was good, I would be lying to you. And so yeah, do I think is it good to compare these two and say that one's better than the other? No, because there's two different visions for the game. It would be a colossal failure even if even the director and creators and actors themselves weren't content how the game ended and how the game went in the gameplay. That'd be really bad. You know. So, anyways, guys, this is just all my thoughts. Once again, it's my thoughts. If you want to share yours, feel free. So, but anyways, guys, the next thing that we're gonna be talking about sometime soon would be I can't remember what it was, but one of them. Oh yeah, the HBO series, and we're gonna be talking about the Last of Us multiplayer leak, and I want to talk about that too sometime. And so yeah, I'll dedicate some videos to certain topics because I think that's gonna actually be of good help to you guys. So, but anyways, guys, I'll see you guys. I hope you guys have a good rest of the day, and I'll see you guys the next time.